I titled today's mind map, The Subconscious Ways from the Mental Image. Today's conversation is inspired by The Master Key System by Charles Haanel and The Power of Your Subconscious Mind by Joseph Murphy. I would like to relate this over to Tuesday's conversation in which we spoke about possibility-based thinking. And I would like to tie this into artistic expression, invention, innovation. You may construct the mold or model from which your future will emerge. You can make it grand and beautiful. You are not limited as to any cost or material. That no one can place any limitation on it but yourself. We recognize that material, the ways we could say, show up some way, somehow, when we commit to something that we imagine. This is even the case when it comes to invention. Let's look at this quote here. It says, "Great architect of the universe, we shall find our thoughts taken from, just as the universe took concrete form. It is the same mind operating through the individual. Nikola Tesla, one of the greatest inventors of all ages, who has brought forth the most amazing realities, always visualizes his inventions before attempting to work them out. He does not rush to embody them in form and then spend his time in correcting defects. Having first built up the idea in his imagination, he holds it there as a mental picture to be reconstructed and improved by his thought. In this way," he writes in The Electrical Experimenter, "I am enabled to rapidly develop and perfect a conception without touching anything. When I have gone so far as to embody in the invention every possible improvement I can think of, and see no fault anywhere, I put into concrete form the product of my brain. Invariably, my device works as I conceived it should. In 20 years, there has not been a single exception." As I've been working with this information over the years, I find that I can go into my imagination and construct the entire business model or invention and how it relates to different market segments, the fulfillment, the operations. And I'm able to do this with a higher vivid degree. And I find that this is something we get better at with practice as we pick a goal or a vision and we bring it into existence. And also I'd say that we look at this from the perspective of all of these inventions already exist in imagination. And to the degree that we have faith in our own ability to see in our imagination what already exists, we will be able to actually even go beyond if something exists in the five sensory experience and imagine something that doesn't exist with vivid accuracy in our imagination and hold true to that and see it all the way into existence. And so it states, "Clearness and accuracy are obtained only by repeatedly having the image in mind. Each repeated action renders the image more clear and accurate than the preceding, and in proportion to the clearness and accuracy of the image will the outward manifestation be. You must build it firmly and securely in your mental world, the world within, before it can take form in the outer world. The material will be brought out by millions of silent mental workers and fashioned into form of the image which you have in mind." I find this to be the case when I get really deep in my imagination. It feels like whatever it is that I'm imagining starts to build itself. Silent mental workers fill in the gaps, the parts, the different aspects of the invention, the innovation, and we allow it to be. So we have the ability to tap into different aspects of our mind that we have not explored yet by simply suggesting, as we related over to Tuesday's video, that it really is possible something that we might not have seen existed in the five sensory experience. We call this working with the sixth sense. We want to first believe that it's possible. Because over the years, as I believed that it was possible, I would start to notice exactly what he's referring to. This material will be brought out by millions of silent mental workers and fashioned into form of the image which you have in mind. It seems that different ideas or aspects or pieces of the invention or the artistic expression would start to show up and contribute to that mental image. I would be able to see and experience in my imagination a higher degree of vivid accuracy to what I wanted to see experienced as far as expression goes. The wonderful thing about this is the vividness of this mental image changes the very structure of my being. I find myself committed to that vision. I find myself automatically excited and expressing, finding myself in deeper degrees of flow as I create my invention or project. And so he says, in addition to these millions of mental workers, you have billions of mental workers in the body, every one of which is endowed with sufficient intelligence to understand and act upon any message or suggestion given. These cells are all busy creating and recreating the body. But in addition to these, they are endowed with psychic activity whereby they can attract to themselves the substance necessary for perfect development. So we go back here. Great architect of the universe, we shall find our thoughts taking form just as the universe took concrete form. It is the same mind operating through the individual, seeing the vision as reality. This allows the mental workers, and as he says here, the billions of workers in the body, everything actually, to somehow reorient, readjust, rearrange, to bring out that vision. We even then start to notice people, resources, opportunities start to show up in unexpected ways as that mental image has been harmonized in the subconscious mind, and the subconscious mind, we could say, takes care of the rest. So let's tie this into 7 key aspects that I pulled from the power of the subconscious mind and relate it over to what we're discussing. Number 1, it is this mind that carries out on the work of assimilation and upbuilding whilst we sleep. This is very fascinating. I noticed that I would get ideas in my dreams of what to put in my innovation, sometimes even what to say in these videos, which were subconsciously generated as a result of committing to a vision and remaining committed lightheartedly to the accuracy of that vision, revisiting it actually regularly, seeing it in my imagination as a world, actually going into the world of how it will be, and remaining in there. Because we know then the subconscious mind picks up on that vivid accuracy, which again even is contributed by, as he says here, this material will be brought out by millions of silent mental workers and fashioned into form of the image which you have in mind. This is very powerful because we could look at this world here and what everyone else has created and create from the perspective. We can modify, create new artistic expression or invention based on inspiration from this outer world. Or we can go into our imagination, into the infinite world within, the source of it all, and find new, distinct artistic expression, invention, ways of living that have not been discovered before. Number 2, it reveals to us things that the conscious mind has no conception of until the consummations have occurred. And so I noticed this, abstract ideas, intuitive hunches, ways of doing things that might not make a logical sense. And I do those things. I apply those things, and they seem to produce results. This has been the case on my entrepreneurial journey. Much of the successes and innovations that were done for the clients and the services that I provided, I would feel compelled to do something that was considered not common knowledge or best practice, and it would produce results. Number 3, It can communicate with other minds without the ordinary physical means. And we've been discussing this. All subconscious minds are connected. When you commit in your imagination to an invention or an idea, that the subconscious mind, some way, somehow, will bring together the people, the resources, everything. People will then seem to show up unexpectedly. You'll meet them, or they'll reach out to you, they'll email you, and they'll have some kind of insight. So in 2009, I also had this point-of-sale system that I was selling to restaurants and retail locations. I took a software called Open Bravo, and I customized it. The very first opportunity that was given to me so that I could build a system, which was a bar/restaurant, the guy that owned the place, actually him and I became friends. He actually rented me a place to live, and upstairs, his brother happens to be the person that knew some technological pieces to help me overcome some challenges. And I noticed that nowadays this stuff happens to a higher degree of frequency because I seem to be more allowing the subconscious mind to express rather than trying to force or control aspects of the journey. We recognize then by having faith or trusting that others will show up in a way to contribute to our vision. We actually relax then. We allow it to be, and others do show up to contribute to our vision. Number 4, and related to what we mentioned earlier, it gets glimpses of things that ordinary sight does not behold. We feel compelled to go in a certain direction. Actually, in relation to that point-of-sale system, I was actually out with a friend. We went for lunch, and I ran into one of my friends in high school. He mentions that together with one of his friends, they were opening up a restaurant, and maybe I could help them with stuff. And the part of me was thinking, well, I do office IT support. I'm not sure what I would do with a restaurant bar, but I felt compelled to go there. And that ended up being the first point-of-sale system deal because he said that he wanted a point-of-sale system. So I contacted one of my mentors who owned a very successful IT business. And I asked him about this. He said, let's check if there's open source software that we can customize. And then we found it. We found this software called Open Bravo. And what I found very interesting about it was tied into a bigger solution, ERP, managing inventory, tying into distribution, which for me, I had a background in warehouse management system. So it seems to all tie in together. Reminds me of when Steve Jobs said, connecting the dots looking backwards. We want to encourage and recognize that the dots do connect. When we start to see it, then the unknown ways of the subconscious mind are allowed to be. This is why we allow intuition to guide us, which brings us to point number 5. He says, it warns of approaching danger. So I've seen this many times. We would take a business model and we'd go down a certain pathway, and then all of a sudden I would feel that something wasn't right about the way the business deal was going. And then I would bring it up and we'd look at it, and then we would be able to foresee something in the future that the subconscious mind had revealed through that indication. And as a result, we were able to course correct. Number 6, it approves or disapproves of a course of conduct and conversation. And so what we're seeing here is that when you have a goal and a vision, you commit to it. We want to allow the subconscious mind to guide us to the destination. And the path of intuition brings us there. A lot of times I felt automatically compelled to do certain things. And then there were times where I felt compelled to take very nonlinear approaches, very unconventional approaches. Number 7, it carries out all the best things which are given to it, providing the conscious mind does not intercept and change the course of its manifestation. So if we go back to this part here, clearness and accuracy are obtained only by repeatedly having the image in mind. Each repeated action renders the image more clear and accurate than the preceding, and in proportion to the clearness and accuracy of the image will the outward manifestation be. You must build it firmly and securely in your mental world, the world within, before it can take form in the world without. So the way I relate these two together is that once I've committed to the vision, I allow the subconscious mind to express. Body is an expression of mind. All is an expression of mind. As he says here, in addition to these millions of mental workers, you have billions of mental workers in the body, every one of which is endowed with sufficient intelligence to understand and act upon any message or suggestion given. And so again, number 7, It carries out all the best things which are given to it, providing the conscious mind does not intercept. And so we want the subconscious mind to express. And if we would like to have a more flow-based, harmonious journey to the destination, we want to allow it to express, rather than perhaps identifying with overthinking, emotional patterns that are not true and in harmony with how you actually are, which then through those thinking patterns and emotional patterns, identification, it could play out in convoluted behaviors, creating unnecessary frustration and stress. If a person has these behavioral patterns, emotional patterns, or thinking patterns that play out, they can benefit from working with the power of the subconscious mind to identify these patterns, release them, and identify with the true and accurate thinking patterns that are in harmony with how they really are from the perspective of love, from the perspective of their vision. You can watch the 2-hour video I did on the power of the subconscious mind, and actually I did a few hours discussion on all the exercises in the Master Key system. I'll put a link in the description to those videos. And so in summary, let's go back to the beginning here. You may construct the mold or model from which your future will emerge. You can make it grand and beautiful. You are not limited as to cost or material. They some way, somehow show up. And the key is this: no one can place any limitation on it but yourself. And if we're putting these limitations on ourselves for whatever the reason, I recommend watching Tuesday's video in which we discuss possibility-based thinking. As we continue to encourage that, on top of what we mentioned, the magnetic energy from that in Tuesday's video, will draw to us the people, the resources, everything that is needed to make our vision a reality. So I trust you found this video to be helpful. Let's go ahead and conclude this with an auto-suggestion to further encourage. We can say, I recognize more so every day my ability to construct and mold my future in all its vividness, as I find myself drawing upon millions of silent mental workers in contribution to fashioning into form the image which I have in my mind. I also recognize that billions of workers in the body being an expression of mind, and the relationship and connection with the subconscious mind of others, to all resources, draw upon everything in a lighthearted way to make my vision a reality. To the process, I allow intuition to guide me as I live in and from my vision. I notice this becomes easier each day to live this way. I also notice it becomes easier to construct in my mind's eye the invention, the innovation, artistic expression, to commit to and allow to express in a flow-based, harmonious way, all the way into its realization. If you would like a copy of this mind map, the link is in the description. Thank you very much for watching. I'll talk to you soon. Take care.